Hello everyone and welcome back to Project Fern. I'm Danny and today we're in the Meriva VXR. I've done about 600-700 miles in the car, basically to get to know it, see how it feels, see if there's anything wrong with it. We've got quite a few jobs that need doing on it today, so let's get stuck into it. So the other week I put the car in for its MOT, it went straight through, no advisories, well I should say no advisory, just one little advisory, which is that chip in the windscreen there. It's about the size of the top of a drawing pin. I don't know whether that can be repaired, seeing as there's no crack to the outside of it, or whether it's going to have to be a new windscreen, but that definitely needs sorting out. There's a bit of a rattle coming from the back of the car when I'm driving. It sounds pretty metallic, maybe like a heat shield or something, but I'm going to have a look at that when we start servicing the car in a bit. I don't know if you can see there because of the puddle, but there's a slight oil leak from the front of the engine. It's only a few drops every time I park it up. I'll go into a little bit more detail on that when we get stuck into the car in a bit. Also, the front fog lights aren't working on the car. There's some clips missing. If I could just show you my foot here, this makes the bottom of the bumper a bit flexible. I think them clips come brittle over time and they just snap when people take the bumpers off or do any work on them and just don't replace them. So I've got some new ones of them to put in. It sounds like there's some noisy lifters on the car as well. I hope it is the lifters. I hope it's not a weak oil pump that's just struggling to get the oil up there. I've got some high grade expensive oil to put in this car today, so we'll see how it sounds after I've done that. So over about 50 mile an hour, especially on motorway, 70 to 80 mile an hour, we've got quite a bit of brake judder. Now, them discs look pretty scored to me. They're not too lipped, but I don't know how old the discs and pads are. So hopefully we're going to be swapping them out as well, but I'll probably do that in another video. Just be having a look at them today and hopefully that'll solve that issue. When you're driving and take your hands off the steering wheel, the car pulls quite hard to the left. I don't know if it's got anything to do with this little clip that's been done here on the front bumper and it's been knocked, but I'm going to take this wheel off today and make sure there's nothing bent or anything, and then we can get the tracking done. We're going to be carrying out a full service on this car today. I've got quite a few bits just in case we need them. I can always send them back if I don't. All filters, good expensive oil. I went on Courtney Sport and see what they recommended and got some of that. I think it's Vauxhall. I can't remember what the exact make is, but we'll have a look before I put it in. Got plugs, filters. Just going to be giving this car a bit of a pamper really and see if it drives any better. It's driving absolutely mint at the moment, pulls really well in all gears. Slight little groan I think from the clutch, but like I say, once I've serviced it, got this oil leak fixed, got all the little bits done I can do, I'm going to send it into a VXR specialist, get the timing belt water pump done, get them have a look at that clutch noise. I don't know if there's some bearing in there that might need changing, get the gearbox oil done and get them to check it over and make sure it's spot on. I've done 65,000 miles now. Like I say, I've done about 700 miles in it. Well, let's get the car in the workshop, or the unit should I say, and get it jacked up and get working on it. I'm sorry if the camera's a little bit shaky. I'm just under the car at the back here. I'm starting off with a rattle at the back. Pretty straightforward one this. Got this exhaust heat shield. All the clips are missing on each one. I think there's 4 in total. Yeah, there's one up there as well. There's 4 in total that are missing. So luckily I've got some spare clamps over on the bench and we're going to have a look at them now. I've got 10 these little clamps. Hopefully they'll go on. It is quite corroded a little bit around the metal, but they should still cover the gap that's there. So I'm going to get these pushed on now and hopefully that will fix the rattle on the back of the car. Hopefully that's fixed that issue now. We've got 2 new exhaust heat shield clamps. Sorry, 3. One up there as well. Just make it out. There we are. It's not zooming though. The heat shield's now not rattling at all. There is still a little bit of movement in it, but I'm just going to get the pliers now and push them on and move on to the next job. So the next issue we have on the car is an oil leak. It just drops a couple of drops every now and again. I'm not saying that it's leaking a lot more than that, it just takes a little bit of time for it to hit the floor. But I don't know if you can see down there, let me get a torch. I don't know if you can kind of make it out down there, but there's a bit of an oil leak. We'll have a proper look at it when we get underneath the car, but the dipsticks also snapped on this car. They're on back order with Vauxhall. I've been for absolutely ages, so I'll take you over to the bench now and show you what bits I've got. So when I bought this car, it came with some parts. It's come with a timing belt, it's come with a tensioner pulleys and stuff like that. I don't know how old them belts are, so when I get it done, I'm just going to have new ones put in. I'd rather do that than trust an old belt. There doesn't look anything wrong with the belt. It does look brand new in the box, but I don't know where it's been stored, etc, etc. So it's just not worth risking it. And for what the price is, for like £100 for a Gates's belt and water pump kit, you can may as well just buy a brand new one. But it did come with this part here, which is like the whole assembly with a new water pump on it as well. Does worry me a little bit, this, in case the oil leaks a bit more than what I think it is. The car, when I bought it, also came with the oil return pipe off the turbo, which is a common issue. The strange thing is they bought all GM parts here, original genuine parts, but they haven't bought the little gasket that goes on the top, the important bit. They've also bought a new dipstick tube, again, a genuine General Motors one, and I've had to get a used dipstick out of a VXR online off a breaker, so I can get that put in today. So I'm going to be doing this work and investigating this oil leak. Fingers crossed it's just this oil return pipe, but I'm going to be doing that after I've dropped the oil. But I just wanted to explain to you kind of what was going on with the car and what came with it. But it did come with this whole unit again. The oil leak ain't massive, it's only a few drops, so I don't know why they bought this entire unit. I bet they're not I bet they're not cheap, but we'll soon find out when we get the car jacked up and have a look underneath. The next job I'm going to be looking at, hopefully it's just a quick fix, is the front fog lamps. They are turned on there, they're not working. Hopefully it's just bulbs. I don't think I've got any spare bulbs on me today, but I've no doubt, because this bumper's clearly been off in the past. You can see how it's rattling. I've got the new clips here, there's 2 types. I think it's actually these longer ones that go in the bottom. There's 3 that attach to like the subframe or whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to start by testing the fuses and going from there really. Hopefully it's something or nothing, but that's the next job that I'm going to be doing. I'm just at the fuse box on the passenger side. That's the fuse there, fuse 46. It should be a 15 amp fuse. It's probably not going to focus on it, but I'm going to test it. There doesn't look like there's anything wrong with the fuse, but I'm going to get the tester out now and turn everything on and see what's happening. Start from there. I've just used the power probe to test the fuse and everything seems okay when it's switched on and stuff. So I'm going to get under the car now and have a look and make sure the wiring's okay and check that there's power going to the actual bulbs. It might just be something as simple as the bulbs need replacing. I don't know if that's a bumper off job, never done them on one of these before, but let's just get underneath and see what's happening. Right, so I've just stuck my head underneath this car and I've had a look. The multi-plug was hanging down, but if you look inside, there's no bulbs in either side. The multi-plugs are just hanging down, and it does look like the clips inside are broke. So I'm going to do a little bit of research on that. Hopefully I might be able to get 2 new front fog lamps for it, because this one does look like it's had a bit of water in it. I'll see how I get on with that one, but that's not one that can be fixed today, but at least we know what it is. So it needs 2 new front fog lights, or at least the holders that go on the back, and hopefully we can get them to go back in. I don't know if you can hear that, but the lifters are quite noisy and there is a bit of a knock. I hope that's something and nothing too major. That's going to cost a fortune to sort out. Down here as well, I'll just show you, there's some bits missing from the air filter and also a screw that goes there. The bits are in the back of the car, and I bought a replacement screw there from Vauxhall, so I'll put all that back in when I do the air filter in a bit. But as for this bit of a knock on the engine, it drives fine, no lack of power or anything like that, but I'm going to get that in with the VXR specialist, and hopefully he can give me a diagnostic on what that is, whether it's something or nothing, whether they all do it, I don't know. It's not causing me any great concern, but I'd just rather have it looked at anyway. I've got the passenger side jacked up here. This is the side it's pulling to when you take your hands off the steering wheel. Can't see anything that's bent, everything looks straight, everything looks as it should be. Moving on to the brake judder now. Sorry, with nothing being bent or anything like that, it's going to have to get its tracking done on this car. Moving on to the brakes, still loads left on the discs and pads. I don't know if it's just old days, they are a little bit scored. There's no lip on them. I don't know if they've been warped. I don't know if this is just your standard heat damage, rust that you'd expect on them. But I'm going to put a new set on anyway, and fingers crossed that solves our issue. But that's for another video. I'm going to get this wheel put back on now, and then we can move on and start working on the car and get the service done. I'm going to start by dropping the oil first. When I picked the car up, I noticed that there was a bit of an oil leak underneath. I asked the guy what he were, and he said it was just a leaky sump plug which they'd had replaced, which is clearly not the case. Seeing as when I had a look in the boot, they had this oil return pipe off the bottom of the turbo. It's hard to see, I'll try and zoom in now, but you can see it's clearly leaking from there. So hopefully this new pipe going on will solve this oil leak issue. You can see there's a bit of dye from when the air con was fixed. I've got a receipt for that repair. It's had some new seals put in somewhere, or some O-rings. I can't remember exactly where they are. But yeah, I'm going to get the oil drop now, get it all changed, get the filter changed, and then I can start removing this pipe. It looks like it's going to be a bit of an easier job than I thought it was going to be. There's also a new dipstick tube which you've seen on the bench, because what they've done at the top, I think, is they've crushed the dipstick tube around the dipstick a little bit. So seeing as we've got a brand new one, may as well get that put in today as well. So let's get the oil dropped, and then we'll get on with sorting this oil out, this oil leak out. Right, here are all the parts for the service. Oil's been dropped. I've took the oil filter housing out now to change the oil filter. That gets torqued up to 25 Newton meters. It actually says it on the housing. We've got some Valvoline Sim Power 5W40s as recommended by Courtney Sport, or whatever they're called. We've got a new fuel filter. We've got a genuine oil filter, genuine pollen filter, genuine air filter, and we've also got a new set of spark plugs as well, which will be going in today. So I'm going to get all these bits put on the car now, get the oil filter put back in, and we'll get started on the oil return pipe and also the dipstick tube, which is all sat here waiting to go in. So that was a bit of a nightmare. That the pipe comes off easy enough, but it's the gasket that's left behind. It almost like a paper gasket, all stuck to the metal surface, coming off in bits. I had to get a screwdriver up there. It took me ages to scrape it all off. And then I've just given it a bit of an emery cloth and just to clean up the surface. I've tried getting the dipstick out, but unfortunately it's fouling. I thought it'd slide out and pass. Sorry, it's just there. I thought it'd slide past everything, but it's not going to do, so I'm just going to have to keep the old dipstick in and then put the dipstick tube in and put the new dipstick in. But I'm going to get this pipe put back on now. I think it says you torque the bolts up to 8 Newton meters, and then we should be rocking from there. It's the next day now, and the full service was completed yesterday on the car. Spark plugs, pollen filter, which is underneath that scuttle panel there. I always thought that they put them inside the floor in the passenger side, but they don't. They like the Fords, they're underneath this, but you have to take the whole lot off. Air filter's done. This pipe that was missing, don't know if you can pick it up down there, but all that's back in and in place. This was loose. I found a screw inside the car for that bracket there, which is sorted. Car's running absolutely mint. I can't tell you what a difference putting this stuff in has made. It's so much quieter, especially on the lifters. The only problem with that now, with the lifters being so quiet, is it's made that knocking noise sound a lot worse. Unfortunately, well, should I say, you're probably wondering why it's the next day, but what I did is I finished the service, I've changed that oil return pipe off the turbo, and I've just been driving it a bit, but I don't know if you can see underneath there. Let me get the torch. But it's still leaking oil. So I've had a look, and let me just get the torch in. If we can see down there, just let me try and get the angle for you. But it looks like the copper washer needs replacing on the oil inlet pipe to the top of the oil feed pipe on top of the turbo. It's a little copper washer, I think about £2 or £3. And it looks like it's leaking from there and then splashing everywhere and coming back down that oil return pipe. I've just replaced that because that's what came with the car. I just thought that's what it might be. So I'll probably get that replaced now when I get it in with the VXR specialist, which will be in the next couple of weeks. But that's pretty much it. I wanted to just check in with you and let you know what was going on with the car and how I'd got on after I'd serviced it. Plugs have definitely made a difference. The oil's made the biggest difference. Definitely worth spending that little bit more on the oil. I can't remember how much that were. Probably about 45 quid or something for 5 litres. Took about 4.5 litres, I think. Next job on this car is going to be the front disc and pads, which is a pretty simple job. And then we'll get it in with the VXR specialist and keep you updated on it. Still loving it, still driving mint. Oh, another thing before I go. I filled it up the other day with just normal fuel from Shell. I feel the car's driving a little bit, not lumpy, but a bit like jerky on the low grade fuel. I had been running it on Shell V-Power and it was running absolutely amazing. Well, like premium fuel, should I say. And it's definitely running a little bit jerky in the morning and stuff when I accelerate, a bit kangaroo-y. So I'm going to revert back to using the premium fuel and I'll keep you updated on that little thing as well. But glad the car's fully serviced now and I know it's all been done. Filters have all been changed, air filter, fuel filter, pollen filter, spark plugs, brand new oil, genuine oil filtering as well. So fingers crossed, when we get it to the VXR specialist, we're not going to be having any issues. So that's it for today's video on the Meriva VXR. I've ordered some new front fog lights for it. I think they're about £40–50 each, but they're Vauxhall. They're a company that make lots of parts, mainly like wiper motors, stuff like that. So I've ordered 2 new front fog lights. They're exactly the same fog light for both sides. Plenty of people selling them on eBay. So if you do need them, I'll put a link in the description below to the actual Vauxhall number. I think I got them for about £15 each, which ain't too bad. Once you take that front grille off, it's just a few screws that hold them on. It comes with the bulb holders on the back. It's a shame I couldn't just get the bulb holders and the multi-plug attachment, but I'm not bothered. One of them was soiled, so I'll get that replaced. We're going to get it booked in with the VXR specialist, tell him about that knocking noise, get him to investigate that first, get him to sort the oil leak out, and then from there I'll probably get him to do the timing belt, water pump, and all other bits, get the gearbox oil changed and check the noise. There's a bit of a squeal, not a squeal, but a bit of a grunt when you set off from the gearbox, which I think might be the clutch slipping a little bit, might be the dual mass flywheel. I don't know until we get it down to him and let him get it checked out. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one.